am Joseph Fenty, and I will be your associate for this service of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Charlotte County, also known as UUFCC. Before we get started, just a couple of orienting announcements. We will not have any visuals today, but we will have audio today. So there will be songs that will be part of the program, and we have put out the hymnals in the back. So if you choose to, you can grab a hymnal. They're all from the gray hymnal. And you can just sort of sing quietly to yourself or mouth the words or do that kind of thing if you want to keep track and sing along. So I invite you to do so. It's kind of the first time we are using these hymnals for some time. So that's what we'll do today. Okay, so as you have heard, we begin our service each week by singing an invitation to gather together, even as we are scattered in many different places, whether our sacred place be virtual or live. I wish to express my gratitude to Corey and Tom Dooley, who are supporting our technology this morning. Thanks to Jim, Linda, and members of our UUFCC choir for this morning's recorded music, and especially to Jim. The service is being broadcast live on YouTube, and we will be available for viewing on the UUFCC YouTube channel after the service. I'd like to remind you of a couple of simple procedures that will help our service and broadcast run smoothly. To respect everyone's privacy, it is our practice to use only first names when helpful and last initials. For those of us virtually, you may wish to have a chalice or candle available for our chalice lighting ritual. For those of you here in the fellowship, when the service is over, please exit through this door to the patio, where I understand we will have coffee today. If the step is a challenge, feel free to exit the way you came in through the double doors. Our socializing time will be on the patio outside. You are welcome here at UUFCC, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter your background or spiritual journey. We know you come here for different reasons: to find community, to seek your spiritual and personal truths, to ask questions, to nurture and be nurtured, to explore new ideas. We come from different places, different religions, different beliefs, and different backgrounds. We trust you will find something that you need here: comfort, connection, challenge, and love. And we hope you will find ways to help others. If you are new here, please stand or wave as you are comfortable so we can welcome you. Okay, I see in attendance 2 new people. You are welcome. Thank you for joining us today. If you have not already, please take the opportunity to meet with one of our membership team following the service. If you are new at home and would like to learn more about our fellowship, you can email Mary Jane at office@uufcc.org. Visit our website at uufcc.org. And wherever you are, we are glad you have chosen to spend your Sunday morning with us. Our service is a revered time, and the chalice is an important symbol. It is a reminder that we gather in community, in a safe community, in this community that we have created together. This morning's chalice words are by A. Powell Davies. It's called "Until We Draw Together." What are we, any of us, but strangers and sojourners forlornly wandering through the nighttime, until we draw together and find the meaning of our lives in one another, dissolving our fears in each other's courage, making music together and lighting torches to guide us through the dark. May the light we kindle in our time together guide us once again through the dark and into the bright dawn of courage. I need an assistant to light the chalice. Lynn Ritchie, would you come forward, please? As Lynn lights the chalice here in the sanctuary, please join me in reciting our affirmation. Unfortunately, we don't have the words on the screen, so I'll lead you. The implement. We'll make fire somehow. It's quite a blaze here, the chalice lighting. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our aspiration, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth and love, and to help one another. I invite you now to light your home chalices or candles. And next we will have a prelude number 95, There is More Love Somewhere.
I have the opening words this morning. I asked to be the one to deliver them because they come from a novel, an old favorite of mine. It's called Ghosts. It was published in 1982 by Marcia Parker. I wrote her a fan letter. I liked the novel so much, and she replied to it, and I still have that reply of hers in a Browning envelope stuck into the paperback. Here is what the passage says. The ghosts are everywhere, in a breeze, in a whisper, in a scrap of scribbled paper lying at the bottom of an old box. They are in old barns, in new cellars, in classrooms, in towers, in attics, closets in the very air around us. Ghosts can walk the bare winter fields. They can walk through walls, and they can step across centuries as easily as we step over thresholds. They are the ghosts of our memories, the assemblage of parts non-existent, forgotten, and then remembered, blushes, omnipresent, and then magically, suddenly gone. The ghosts of ourselves, of our friends, our families. We are the living souls of today and the ghosts of tomorrow.
Thank you, Sharon. It is time for our Book of Life. And Richie, would you mind bringing the book forward? You're being very helpful, Lynn. I appreciate you so much. Thank you. Okay, we do have an entry. June 12th, please keep our family in your prayers and energetic projections as we suffer the loss of my Aunt Brenda, who passed away earlier this week. I hope she flies high. Corey. So I have also an entry into this Book of Life. It's not here, but it's in here. As many of you know, there was a tragic set of mass shootings just recently in Buffalo. There were 10 people killed by a white supremacist gunman, and in Uvalde, Texas, 19 children and 2 teachers lost their lives. And it's a very tragic event. It pains me deeply to think about how many lives have been cut short. In the case of the children, some of them were so badly injured they had to be identified by the shoes they wore, which is quite tragic. And over the 24 hours that just passed, there were many protests around the country, which makes me somewhat hopeful that change will occur. And we had an event planned here in Port Charlotte, but the rain didn't allow us to protest for reform. And I hope that the country finds its way towards some kind of meaningful reform so these kinds of tragedies don't continue to be part of our lives. So, okay, so just a couple of items regarding the Book of Life. We have a long tradition at UUFCC of sharing our joys, sorrows, and life milestones by entering them into the Book of Life. These messages can be written in the Red Book at the back of the sanctuary. Those at home are welcome to email your entries to bookoflife@uufcc.org. Messages should be received no later than the Sunday prior to the service. The entries will be read by the worship associate to the congregation during the Sunday morning service. After that, email messages will be entered into the actual Red Book. May we hold these and our unspoken joys and sorrows in our heart. May we also hold one another in love and tenderness so that this fellowship may be a source of strength and comfort, courage, and hope in the days and weeks ahead. Next, we'll have hymn 128, For All That Is Our Life.
For all life is a for all that is our life.
For sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that hurts, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are all to use, to build the common good. And may you are always glad.
I'm waiting for the signal, Corey. Do I get one? Thank you. I call my sermon today, Blessed Be My Ghosts. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of the American Psychological Association recently labeled prolonged grief as a disorder. That is a description with which I heartily disagree. In fact, one of the truths I always emphasized in our course, Happiness is an Inside Job, is that painful as it is, grief is a healthy emotion, a physically and spiritually necessary experience. Although that's almost too easy to say, isn't it? That grief is cleansing and normal and natural. Because at the time, it feels like the end of the world. So many of you who lit candles at our communal memorial service in March, you and I know that grief can feel desperate, ugly, awful, destructive. But what helps me when I'm in one of those moods is to reframe my pain as a measure of how much I loved my husband, Tim. To try to experience that depth of grief as a testimonial to the enormity of my loss. Because that's what grief is. It's a natural reaction to loss, to all forms of loss, of permanent separation. The death of a loved one or a beloved pet. The loss of a friendship. The loss of connection to family. The loss of a dream or of a place you once loved. Most of us here have lived long enough to know that the painful intensity of that loss does not last forever, and that we will heal. And yet, when you're in it, when you're in the midst of it, when you're down in the quicksand of actively grieving, what you know in your head feels inconceivable, unreal to your heart. The other day I got out my latest UUFCC directory and I counted the members and friends who have suffered a major loss in the past few years. I counted at least 40 names. And those names, mind you, are only the ones I personally know about. So what impact have those losses had on your lives? Your lives, all of your lives. All of you whose griefs I don't even know. If you were standing where I am today, what words of wisdom would you have to share? All cliches, right? But cliches grow out of truths that are universal enough to bear endless repeating. And for those in the middle of grief, cliches can feel like fresh insights. So I have 4 such insights or truths that I have culled from my recent experience. Number 1, the most universal first reaction to loss is guilt at the what ifs, at the if only. If only we'd gone to the hospital in time. If only he'd driven a different route. If only I hadn't left him alone. The problem with this, of course, is that the possibilities are not only infinite, but each one ends with the same set of words. Then maybe my loved one wouldn't have died. When the painful reality is that he did die, that I have to accept what his death means for my life now. What helps me most with this, if only guilt, is knowing that I'm not alone, that it is typical of those suffering a loss as their first emotion. Number 2, truth. You can never predict what your grief will be like. It always depends on the context. I worried about this a lot in the first weeks after Jim died because I wasn't falling apart the way I did years ago when the man I loved then was killed in a car crash. I was so concerned about the difference that I called my wise mentor and friend, counselor friend, David Muchler, on the phone, and I brought this to his attention. And here's what he told me. Every death has its own context. It's not as if you feel X for one loss and will therefore feel 2 times X for a greater loss. It doesn't work that way. Just trust that each grief will take you where you need to go. So now I think about the context of my earlier love affair versus years of marital relationship growth and contentment with Jim. I think about the context of being in my 30s versus being in my 80s. Lord, in my 80s. Of course, my grieving today wasn't the same as it was 50 years ago. It's obvious, yes, but this was a new insight for me. Number 3, grief forces you to live with a paradox. That the person you loved is both still there and not there. Not only is this true in those first shocking moments of loss, or even in the first few months, it's true indefinitely. That's the trouble with the linear notion that grief is something you let go of eventually. That perception misses the temporal nature of grief, how it moves through time. He's gone, but he's also still with you. Which is why, in a very real way, grieving means living with a ghost. To be haunted by a person whose presence is everywhere. The word ghost bears this out. It's from the Old English gast, G-A-S-T, which means breath, spirit, life. It's not that you deny the reality of physical death or your own loss. It's that at the same time, there he is in your thoughts, in your dreams, a presence within you. That's the paradox, isn't it? Jim is this terrible gaping absence in my life, but he's also a presence. He's a moral conscience for me, in a way. He's my spur to pay forward the kind of good that he put into this world. And my number 4 truth, it's definitely a cliche. Grief is a process. At first, it's a wave that knocks you off your feet, spins you head over heels underwater. You're drowning, you're suffocating in it. It will never end. You're leveled by it for hours, for days, for weeks. It washes over you. Then it recedes a little. Then it floods you again. And yet, you survive. Even though you're still aching, you're still distracted, you're not fully there, until gradually, slowly, you start to laugh and feel joy again, though you were certain you never would. You notice that your sadness still comes to visit, but it doesn't stay. Now that isn't magic. That is emotional self-defense. We humans simply cannot sustain such acute emotion forever. We're designed to become accustomed to new circumstances, even unwelcome ones. We're designed to return to a full emotional range. So we bear the unbearable. Somehow we grow into the empty space left by the loss. Another paradox, although perhaps it's not a universal one, is that grief can be a portal to a new sense of aliveness. I recently had an interesting email from a friend whose wife of 50-plus years died in January of 2021. And here's what he wrote to me. For the first 6 months after Nancy's death, I struggled with identifying the purpose of my life now. For the first time ever, no responsibilities, don't even own anything except a car. Then an aha moment hit me. My purpose now is to do only things I really enjoy and associate only with people I choose. That has given me a tremendous sense of new freedom. End quote. That reminds me in turn of a man I read about, Eduard Arzunian. His wife of 56 years suddenly died. And this man, too, says he's creating a new life, visiting friends, and writing his wife's memoirs. His daughter wanted him to come live with her in Israel, with her and the kids and the grandkids, the great-grandkids. And this man says, "When I will be old, maybe, but now I feel myself young." Excuse me. So you know how lovers have a piece of music they call our song. Well, Jim and I had our movie. When we were on the cusp of a relationship in 1991, 6 months after we met, we decided to spend one hot, humid afternoon in a multiplex where it was cool, and we saw the movie Truly, Madly, Deeply with Alan Rickman and Juliet Stevenson. Do any of you remember that movie? Any of you saw that movie? Carolyn's nodding. Yes, the only one. Oh boy, have you missed a good movie. Anyway, it came out in 1990. That was the same year that Ghost came out. And it moves along similar lines as Ghost, but in my view, it's infinitely better. It certainly spoke to me that day in the movie theater in 1991. And because it dramatized a fantasy that I had had years before, probably a common one. This was when my lover of years ago had died in the car crash, and my fantasy was that he had come back. He would come back and somehow we would be together. This is the premise in both Ghost and Truly Madly Deeply. But the movie, Truly Madly Deeply, also seemed to Jim and me both to be a sign that, yes, we should take this new journey together. There's a key scene in that movie where the main character, Nina, holds up a newborn baby. And she says, "A new life, a new life." That was our sign. I wanted to show you a 2-minute trailer to give you the flavor of the whole. It seems that the gods are against me. The day that I was due to give this talk, a month ago, our technology gurus were ill and nobody was here, and I had movie clips, so we postponed it till today when the technology has failed, it seems. So I understand that those watching on YouTube will have both the video and the video and the audio. Those of you here today will hear only the audio, which won't make a great deal of sense in the trailer because, as you know, trailers jump all over the place. I will try to help you with that by giving you a little précis of the plot. The story is that Nina just can't get past losing her lover, Jamie. He died of pneumonia. She goes to work, she interacts with people, but she seems to be slowly dying inside. And then, my old fantasy, Jamie comes back. There's a scene where she's playing the piano. He was had a viola, no, a cello. He was a cellist, and you see her from the back playing the piano. When you hear the cello music in the background accompanying what she's playing, but then slowly she turns, and you see the silhouette of this figure playing the cello, a real figure, and she leaps up and they reunite, and you'll hear the gasps and weeping that won't make a great deal of sense otherwise. In any case, I love this because, as in Ghost, he comes back, but there's no funeral scene, there's no discussion of heaven and hell, there's no walking through walls, there's no trying to touch objects that your hand goes straight through, and best of all, in this movie, there's no long, drawn-out goodbye before disappearing in a blaze of glory. Doesn't end that way. This movie is far more down to earth. And much as I love Patrick Swayze in Ghost and other things, I can't think of anyone better than Alan Rickman for Nina's dead lover, Jamie. I don't know if you know Alan Rickman. For those of you who watch the Harry Potter movies, he played Snape. He often plays a villain. He has a slow, deep voice like dark molasses. He has this hawk-like profile with an angular kind of beauty, and an understated way of inhabiting a character as only the British can do. This is my cue to say, let's watch. Let's at least listen and see what we can make of this trailer. So, Nina is ecstatic to have Jamie back. But little by little, his old flaws reassert themselves, and they start to irritate Nina. He turns up the thermostat so high that she can't sleep. He's always cold because he died of pneumonia. He rolls up the rug. He rearranges her furniture. And he invades her privacy. There was a scene in the trailer where she's got a facial on and she's in the bathtub and he goes boo over the edge of the tub. She hasn't even any privacy from him anymore. And in a very amusing side story, he invites all of his ghost friends to come over and watch old movies with him on video. So again, she has no privacy in her old home. At one point she says, "Do you mean to tell me there are dead people in my living room watching videos?" So it's quirky comedy. And threads like this are woven throughout to relieve the seriousness of the theme. That, yes, but also to dramatize the most valuable point, that laughter and tears are on a continuum. We laugh till we cry. We laugh through our tears. We can feel joy and sorrow at the same time. The movie embodies that in both its content and its effect on a viewer. Meanwhile, Nina has met a young man named Mark, and she's torn between her feelings for him, her new life, and her feelings for Jamie. In the last, most memorable scene of them together, Jamie quotes part of a Pablo Neruda poem in Spanish, which Nina translates as he goes along for us, line by line. I will be reading that poem as my closing words today also. But let's listen at least as Jamie Alan Rickman reads this poem and listen to that wonderful voice. "Do you want me to go?" she said. He says, "No, no, no." She's very torn. That poem, Pablo Neruda's The Dead Woman, is a perfect fit for the big theme of the movie and for my message today. And that is that one can and must create a new life even after unthinkable loss. That we shouldn't be afraid to wallow in it, to mourn for as long as it takes, but that in our own way and time, we must move to a place where we can embrace what remains, that new life. Embrace it as the gift that it is. I tell you, 30 years after I first saw this movie with Jim, it feels timely to me all over again in the current circumstances of my life. At the end, we see Jamie standing at the window, silently wiping away tears and watching Nina walk away with a new boyfriend, Mark. But this is important, just as important, I think. He stands there with the other ghosts, sympathetically patting his shoulders, congratulating him on a job well done. He's surrounded by friends who understand, who comfort him, who offer support. And that's what you all did and have done for me and for countless others in our fellowship, present and past. You are at least partly why, 30 years on, this movie resonates more than ever for me, as I hope it will for you. And that leads me to say, you can watch these clips on YouTube. Just look up Truly Madly Deeply clips. It's probably not even available on Netflix anymore. It's that old. But I own both a DVD and a VHS tape of it, and I'd be happy to loan those to any of you. Just ask. Let me close now by reminding you that as a congregation, we have grieved together. We've grieved the loss of Reverend Amy, the loss of community throughout the pandemic, the loss of friends who left because of our troubles. Serious, sobering losses, all of them. And yet, they have not done us in, as some may have feared. I do believe this. I think they've helped make us stronger. In one of my recent chalice circles, we talked about that, how our troubles at UUFCC have relieved us of a certain complacency we might have fallen into when things were going so well, and how the troubles themselves opened the way to a healthy re-evaluation, a new life for us, if you will. Our little chalice group felt such energy that day. We shared a sense of new dedication to defining and living our values. A sense so strong that driving home down 41, I actually felt joyful. Even at the same time as there was a jolt, a pang, remembering that I couldn't tell Jim about it. And this is the point. That pang didn't diminish my joy. Jim was part of it, because he's still part of me in this new life of mine. And I know he will be for as long as I live.
Thank you, Sharon. Appreciate your words of wisdom. Let's have a musical selection. It is called You'll Never Walk Alone by our own Herb Levine. Beautiful song. Okay, so in our tradition, congregations exist because of the general support of members and friends. It is our privilege and our responsibility to ensure the health and future of this fellowship To this end, your offerings to support the ministry of this fellowship, whether by pledge or donation. We are equipped to accept donations through the Venmo app. Payments should be made to UUFCC offering. If you are with us for the first time, do not feel obligated to give. Your presence is our gift. We will now accept the offering. Thank you for your generous support. We are deeply appreciative. As is the custom during the second Sunday of the month, there is a second offering. And this is the description provided. This is from the Social Justice Committee. And this offering will be split into two parts. Half of today's second helping will be for Array, and half of today's second helping, will be for the tripartite Chapin, Chaps, and Mo Food Bank. What I love about this community is our support for social justice and our care for people that are less fortunate. And thank you very much for your generous support. So now it's time to highlight UUFCC special events and activities. And I'll start with a reading of the Congregational Covenant provided by Dennis Shaw. And apparently this information was highlighted at a conflict resolution workshop. So just a reminder of the Congregational Covenant. We, the members of UUFCC, covenant to support and cherish all our members and friends and encourage each other to honor these high standards of relationship. We respect each other's views, backgrounds, and spiritual beliefs. We value a free, open, and mutually respectful exchange of ideas. We hear all voices and encourage thoughtful freedom of expression. We listen to each other without judgment or interruption and speak directly with a person instead of about a person. We will address issues and behaviors rather than people and personalities. We will be considerate but courageous in naming the action that diminishes our community. We will offer forgiveness and understanding and respect that from each other. In all situations, we strive to respect everyone's dignity and well-being. We trust this covenant will help us work together to make decisions, solve problems, and express differences of opinion in a considerate, respectful, and genuinely caring way. Other announcements. So remember to check your weekly UUFCC updates, which includes a calendar and links for connection via Zoom or in person. Additionally, if you would like to have the fellowship events highlighted during the service, you can email worship associates at bookoflife@uufcc.org. So this is from the Immigration Justice Committee. Immigration Justice Committee is working with Charlotte County School Administration to establish a volunteer program to tutor ESL and ELL students. We would like to have a list of 10 to 12 volunteers by the end of July. The school administration will process these volunteers and set up a training by the end of August, tentatively August 23rd. For more information, see Betty/IJC. And we are celebrating June birthdays with cupcakes at coffee hour. Happy birthday to Sharon D, Alan L, Jackie W, and Lynn. Thank you for having birthdays. Make sure you have another one next year. If you'd like us to recognize your birthday, there is a link in the updates. And let me switch to the document. Social Justice Committee will meet today at 11:45. The group will have a hybrid meeting both on the Zoom link and in the Social Justice Hall at 1:45. Okay, sign up for summer fun. UUFCC is trying out a new communication method for summer activities. You may sign up to be part of the new Google group. The group is an opt-in email group where you can discuss and receive messages of a social nature regarding pop-up and scheduled activities and field trips over the summer. This again from the Immigration Justice Committee, which is launching a fundraiser for Planned Parenthood. It says here the recent leaked draft memo of the U.S. Supreme Court suggests that Roe v. Wade may be overturned. Conservative politicians are trying to take away a woman's right to choose, a right women have had for 50 years. If these efforts take place, all women will be diminished. Immigrant women will bear the brunt of these decisions. Many immigrant women live in poverty, and poor women are those whose lives will be most affected. If abortions are banned, these are the women who cannot afford to travel to terminate an unwanted pregnancy. These are the women who will have a difficult time providing for their children. This decision will make immigrant families' lives more difficult. Planned Parenthood has and is still providing affordable health care to many women, many of whom have limited resources and no health care insurance. Please join the Immigrant Justice Committee in supporting Planned Parenthood. Their goal is to raise $1,000. We have already raised $330 and delivered a check to Planned Parenthood of Southwest and Central Florida in Sarasota. In addition, we will deliver signs to the UU Venice as well as UU Sarasota for them to sell. So, yoga is discontinued. The tech team needs help. They don't get volunteers to help with Sunday service technology. You may lose the opportunity to view services on YouTube. And there is a email for communication with the board if you want to send messages to them. In the address field, type in board@uufcc.org. And I used it this morning, and it worked. So, okay, very good. Okay. And we will have a musical selection, lift every voice and sing, and then closing words by Sharon.
No, forgive me. If you no longer live, if you, beloved, my love, if you have died, all the leaves will fall on my breast. It will rain on my soul all day, all night. My feet will want to march to where you are sleeping. But I must stay alive. I must go on living.
Okay, well, Lynn Ritchie's done a lot of walking for us today, so I'm going to let Ken come up and extinguish the chalice for us. Is that okay, Ken? Are you feeling up to it? Sorry. Oh, you're hearing? No problem. Just blow it out as best you can, or pinch it. Cause it not to be lit. Now I invite Ken to come up, and we will extinguish this chalice. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of hope, the fire of commitment, or the warmth of community. May these ideals shine in our lives and warm our hearts until we are together again. Go in peace.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the Spirit of us surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the Spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Everywhere you may go.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, yes, thank you.